All right, so welcome everybody to your manager's playbook, leading teams and developing talent with Cloverleaf. So we get a lot of requests for manager resources, manager activities, things that managers can do to support their teams in using Cloverleaf. So we have tried to curate some ideas that we've seen used. We're going to also invite people to share their ideas as well. But let's get started. So we're going to take a few polls just to get a sense of who's with us today and also some of your needs that you have. We're just going to share very briefly some key features for all managers that all managers should be using, should be encouraging their teams to use. And then we're going to dive deeper into some scenarios and exercises that managers can use some of these features in. So we're also going to talk about how to create alignment on Cloverleaf use, right? So each manager might have different reasons for why they might want to use Cloverleaf. So we're going to give you some language around that. How do you create alignment on why you want to use Cloverleaf or what you want your team to get out of Cloverleaf? Then we're going to talk about maximizing team trust and potential. So on a few webinars, I've shared about this exercise that I did once, but I never really sort of outlined it. So I've outlined it for you in this webinar, and it's a really wonderful exercise that I really saw a team come alive and really be able to break down some silos and some barriers and build some trust and really maximize their potential by leveraging their strengths. It's a super simple exercise, and you can use the content that's already on Cloverleaf to do it. Then we're going to talk about using the thinking style comparison to mitigate conflict and the insights that are already built into that feature. And we've created a process to mitigate conflict with two individuals. And we know that, sometimes there's these unspoken things that happen and we kind of just hope it'll go away. We just hope the two people will work it out. But sometimes as a leader, we have to step in. We have to try to make a difference there. And we want to get out of the details and drama of it. And Cloverleaf can really help you stay focused on the facts and focus on really actually nipping the problem in the bud by using some of the realities of what the root of the conflict is, by focusing on the differing work styles, the differing communication styles that may have caused the conflict to begin with. Then we're going to talk about creating dynamic project teams and how you can use one of the Cloverleaf features to really mix and match work styles and strengths to create the best fit for a project team. And then we'll share about the next webinar, Q&A, and feedback. I also will invite people to share other things that they do that they think that works for them. If they want to share any other ideas, we'll do that as well. So let's get started. First things first, we want to know a little bit more about you and who you are. So if you could just let us know which best describes your role. So are you a senior or C-suite talent or learning leader? Are you a director or a manager level talent or learning leader? Are you a manager of a team? Or are you an individual contributor? Or are you a coach or a consultant? So let us know a little bit more about you. So this content is going to be geared a little bit towards people leaders. By all means, if you're an individual contributor, you can share these things with your leader. You can bring these ideas to your leader. There's no reason why you can't use some of these exercises with a group. But just want to share that with you. Awesome. Excellent. And also, these are some of these things as an individual contributor you can use on your own, like to figure out conflict and also to navigate putting together some project teams or to figure out how to work and collaborate with some project teams that you've been put on. So you can also tweak some of these things if you're not a leader as well. Right. See if we can get a few more people to tell us who you are. We can get to 90%. I know we can. A few more people, let us know who you are. All right, I think we're good. We're at 87%. So we have our biggest group or your managers of a team, our second biggest group, but we have some individual contributors. And then our next biggest group, we have our director level or manager level talent learning leaders. Excellent. Awesome. All right. So you can share the results of that. That's great. All right, we're going to do our second poll. And I want to know from you, what do you think managers really need? Where do you think managers need the most support when it comes to Cloverleaf? Do you think managers need to understand the tool themselves? Do they need to get buy-in from their team to actually use Cloverleaf? Do they need to understand the one-on-one scenarios where Cloverleaf can make a difference? Do they need access to team activities where Cloverleaf can make a difference? So let us know. This is super important for us because we're trying to understand a little bit more about where managers need help so that we can continue to support you with resources and tools in the actual app, within Cloverleaf, and also through our educational opportunities like this as well. Where do managers really need the most support, right? Do they need to understand actually how to use it? Like, do they need support there? Do they need to get buy-in from their team to actually get on the thing and to use it? Do they need to understand those one-on-one scenarios where Cloverleaf can make a difference? Do they need access to some team activities where Cloverleaf can help the team communicate better? So all of these things are pretty much, we've got about, let's see, a few more people. What do you think? All right, we have about, oops, people are still responding to this thing. So interesting. All right. Let's share the results of this, Jason. So we have here about a third of you said understanding the one-on-one scenarios where Cloverleaf can make a difference. And our second thing is access to team activity. And then understanding the tool themselves and getting some buy-in. So all of these things have a good enough charge around them. There's nothing that's super much at the bottom, right? So we're going to cover a lot of all of this today, which is good because all of these things have enough interest, right? Nothing's like super at the bottom. Nothing's like reigning as like the number one thing. So this is great feedback. Thank you so much for giving it to us. That's great. Thanks so much, Jason. All right, so let's get on in there and let's just quickly, super quick, we're just going to refresh some key features for all managers and there's also some additions to features that I'm going to show you. So some of you may already know about Coaching Focus, but there's a new feature to Coaching Focus that I want to share with you that our team has been getting super creative about. So I'm going to just hop on to my dashboard. Let me just get rid of that poll for some reason is still on my screen. Okay. So when you see your Coaching Focus here, those of you who don't know about Coaching Focus, very quickly, I'm just going to show you. This goes by your role. So you identify your role here. By the way, if you're a coach or a consultant, if you're a business lead, this means you manage other managers. Team manager means you manage individual contributors. Team lead means maybe you're a project manager, but nobody reports to you. So based upon your role, you will be able to get to choose your coaching focus. Let's see. Oh, I don't know what's going on there. Let's just go there. You'll get to choose your coaching focus. Okay. I'm going to choose my coaching focus here. Now, when I choose my coaching focus, let's say I choose my coaching focus to developing others. When I save that, it's going to ask me how important building team trust is. Well, you know what? Developing others. It's going to ask me how important that developing others is. I chose developing others, right? Let me clear my coaching focus. I'm going to pick emotional intelligence. I don't know why it's moving so fast. Let me try again. All right, I'm developing others. I'm going to save it. It's very important to me, developing others. And what do you think would be the most immediate positive result if you focused on developing others? Well, the performance of my team would increase, and we would be meeting our quarterly goals. So if I was really developing the performance, developing my team to maximize their potential, it would impact performance and we'd be meeting our quarterly goals. Okay. So it's asking me to actually reflect on why I picked that. Now, when I pick my coaching focus, basically a few times a week, when I get my coaching tips, it's going to let me know by giving me this bullseye that I have a tip related to developing others, right? So when I view my coaching tip, if it was related to developing others, you'd see that little bullseye there. So this is the reflections, the other tool that as managers, we want to be using on a regular basis. This is going to give me a little coaching question for myself. It's asking me to reflect on something about myself and then asking me a quick question, reflecting on a time when I helped a colleague grow. How did it benefit the team's long-term success? So I might say I helped Sue maximize her skill of training others, and she was able to better support the sales team. So maybe I'm now related to some of my own strengths. Now it's going to give me a tip about Mindy. How can my results focus complement Mindy's initiative strength to achieve team goals? Well, I can support Mindy in forwarding a current project to fruition. And maybe I want to bring this up in my next one-on-one with Mindy. So maybe I'll tag it one-on-one. And when I do that, I go to my reflections and it's all saved to my private journal and I can say one-on-one. And that's going to bring that up immediately. And let's say that I set a goal with Mindy during that conversation. I can say, go in here and edit, and I can say goal, right? And I can say, set up survey to go out next week. Right? So I can have this as my ongoing journal, what for performance, for one-on-ones, whatever it is, right? So I want to be using my coaching focus. I want to be using my reflections. I want to be using this on a regular basis as a leader to be curating my own self-awareness, my own awareness with my team, to fuel the conversations that I'm having with people, to be able to be building rapport with them. Okay. So I'm going to just go back to here. So I want to be using my coaching focus. I want to be using reflections. I also want to be using my coaching insights, right? So if I'm going to be preparing for a conversation with someone, I want to be asking, how can I give feedback to, let's just say, Scott, right? So I want to be using that for brief moments before I'm going to be having conversations with people. As a manager, as a leader, I want to be making sure that I'm speaking the language or speaking to my audience. I want to make sure I'm not just rushing in to communications without curating my approach. This takes a minute or two, right? If you have a question, just pop it into the chat and Jason will also answer it. So don't use the raise hand feature just because if you have a question, Jason will just answer it right in the chat and he'll be able to handle it just because we can better handle the questions that way. So you can do that in the chat with Jason. So definitely be using this feature as a manager, as a leader. This is a great way for you to prepare for conversations. And this is a great way for you to also give your team access to this, right? Show your team how they can use it. Hey, if you're struggling with somebody cross-functionally, this is how you can prepare for those conversations, right? Before you come to me and say, hey, I don't know how to approach so-and-so, I want you to go in here and tell me what you learned about so-and-so, right? So you want to empower your team to also be using this tool in those ways. So you want them to pick their coaching focus. You want to use their insights. You want to also be able to use their daily coaching and their reflections. You also, as a leader, want to be using the dashboard builder. Why? Because you want to be able to hop on here if you have to be working with a subset of your team or even a group across functions. You want to be able to just add a few people on here and say, okay, I've got to collaborate with Kristen, Dan, and Tim. And I want to learn a little bit more about how we're all going to work together. We're not on the same team, so we don't have a team dashboard set up. But we have to collaborate and we have to figure out a big problem, and it's something that's emerging. And I want to see, how do we all think? Oh, we got a lot of dominance going on. We're all kind of very similar, right? In our disc type, right? So we're all strong Ds, right? So we probably all have a lot of big, strong ideas. So I have to be prepared for that as I go into this conversation with them, right? So we have some analytical thinkers, right? We have 3 of us in the head triad. So we're going to need some evidence-based information to make that decision, right? And I can just find that out, right? Just from looking at how those 3 people maybe think or make decisions, right? So as a leader, I just want to be able to leverage this to be really thoughtful and intentional about how I communicate and how I collaborate. So these are just tools features that every leader wants to be using, especially also that thinking styles comparison. We're going to dig into that in one of our exercises, but in that thinking style comparison as well, every leader can be looking at themselves against another person and seeing, how do these 2 people communicate differently? How does their work style differ? What's their source of conflict? How can I resolve conflict with these 2 people, right? So every leader wants to be using these features on a regular basis to be managing people, managing conflict, managing strengths, right? Leveraging strengths, right? This is your way to minimize and be proactive, minimize conflict, minimize miscommunication, be proactive, right? So that you're able to leverage the talent on your team, and you're able to do that in an efficient way, right? And the more you're consuming this information, the more present you will be to who's in front of you, and the more able you'll be to leverage those skills and those talents, right? So I was working with a group live yesterday, and they were kicking off on Cloverleaf. And we did a whole exercise, and I showed a bunch of different words on the screen, and they all picked a word that was representative of their strength. And that's how we started the day. Right. And then I said, that's usually, not how you start your day. You start your day opening your email, and you start your day looking at your calendar. How often do you start your day present to your strengths? Nobody raised their hand. But when you start your day consuming information on Cloverleaf, you start your day present to your own strengths. You start your day present to your team's strengths. And that creates a possibility of intentional communication, especially if you're not physically in the same location as the team or all the team that you're working on. Sometimes you may be in the same location as some of your team, but sometimes you may have a hybrid team or a fully remote team. All right, I know I just shared a lot of information. So if you do have some questions and you want to ask any questions, please pop them in the chat. If you have any questions about anything I shared, I can answer questions. Jason can answer questions. Anything that you want, anything about what I just shared that you want to ask. But these are features that every leader should be leveraging. Now we're going to get really specific in terms of circumstances that you can be using them in. But anything that you want to ask, please pop in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer any of those questions. Okay. So Michelle, I'm not sure what you mean by where to look for strengths. There is some strengths assessments. So there's specific strengths assessments depending on which assessments that you have. So in sort of the center area is where the strengths assessments are, whether you have Clifton strengths or VIA strengths, you can look there. In terms of, different strengths that people have within different assessments. So when I say that, I'm talking broadly. So for example, if you start your day being present to your own strengths, you start your day sort of looking at this, right? So you start your day being present to, it's usually your Cloverleaf tip is revealing some sort of strength you have or creating an opportunity to think, right? And now I'm also talking about a strength of a team member, right? So it's a broad statement talking about the tip that you get is this little nugget that's usually referring to some strength or some opportunity for growth. And so that sort of daily opportunity to reflect on that is what I meant. Okay. And so this is right on your dashboard. Okay. All right, so we're going to dive into the exercises that we've created for you to be awesome, Michelle. Yes. So I always suggest that you start your day 2 to 3 times a week with Cloverleaf reflections and put it on your calendar. To do both yours and the team member, I'd say it takes 2.5 minutes. So I always say, like, pick 2 or 3 days a week that you're going to do that and put it on your calendar. I live by my calendar. I put laundry on my calendar to do it, right? So put it on your calendar. So awesome. All right, so let's talk about creating alignments on Cloverleaf use. So this is about what's your why for Cloverleaf. So it's really important as a leader that you share your why around Cloverleaf and that it make sure that it resonates with your team, right? So you want to be able to share, hey, what is Cloverleaf going to provide, right? So in your resource, you're going to notice, I want to just go to the resource for a moment. There's sort of these little scripts for how to position Cloverleaf so that you really are positioning it in a way that resonates with your team based upon your team's needs in that moment, right? So for example, maybe you're looking to strengthen your team's dynamics, right? So maybe you're saying something like, hey, I want Cloverleaf to help us really get to know each other's strengths better. I want us to be able to communicate better. I want us to strengthen our relationships. I want us to cut down on some of the miscommunication. So that's why we're going to use Cloverleaf. Or I want us to get more aligned on how we're doing our projects or how we're performing on our project. So I want us to get really clear on our individual strengths, and Cloverleaf is going to help us do that to make sure that we're sort of doing the right people are doing the right things. It's going to help us increase our project efficiency and maybe even cut down on some friction, right? And again, this is how we start to get this alignment. Also, maybe people are hungry for some daily development. Maybe they're hungry for training and development, right? Hey, I want to be able to offer you guys some regular development, and Cloverleaf is on the spot coaching. It gives you personalized, daily insights. It's tailored to you based upon what you've shared in your assessments, and it's going to help you be able to do this without having to sit at a training, right? It's in the flow of work, right? It's on the spot coaching. A manager could also position it as like, hey, I want to foster a growth culture, right? Cloverleaf is going to help us go deeper and give us some insights to enable us to speak better to each other, to give more effective feedback, to create a more positive team culture, right? To focus more on our strengths, to be able to leverage each other better, right? To collaborate better. Or maybe you want to position Cloverleaf as, hey, this is something that's going to enable us to make smarter data-driven decisions. Cloverleaf is going to give us insights to guide our team roles, to maybe inform how we collaborate, to help us work smarter and maybe drive our results in a different way or in a more informed way, right? So again, you as a leader have to figure out, how do I want to position Cloverleaf? And then you have to also then agree on how and when you will use Cloverleaf, okay? So we did an entire webinar on this, and we created an entire outline of how you can bring your team together for creating agreement or alignment on Cloverleaf. So for example, and we linked this webinar in the resource. So if you go to your resource here, you're going to see, sorry, all the Zoom things are in the way. If you go to this resource, this is going to take you to another resource. There is an outline of how to, in a team meeting, how to say, hey, can we commit to everybody kind of doing these reflections, on their dashboard, 2 or 3 times a week? Or can we commit to using the insight search, right? So you want to get your team aligned to what features they're going to use, how often are they going to do it? Is reading the emails great? Yes, it is. But you want people to use this functionality, right? Agree on how and when you'll use Cloverleaf. Maybe you'll ask people to bring a tip about somebody else that made a difference for them and bring them that to a team meeting, right? So all of that is in that additional resource. You don't have to watch the whole webinar. It's outlined for you in some of those activities in that link that we provided in this resource. So you want to start by, again, sharing that why. Why do you want your team to use Cloverleaf? And agree on how and when you'll use it. Hey, I want you to use it before difficult conversations. I don't want you to just open the email. I want you to log in and reflect on some of your strengths. I want you to develop yourself, right? So you can also bring it up in your one-on-ones, right? And this is a great way to create that alignment as well. As the leader, the more that you model the use, the more your teams are going to use it. You're basically helping your teams go to the development gym, right? So if you wanted someone to get healthier and build muscle, you would tell them to go to the gym and eat right. If you wanted to develop your team and you had this tool available to them, you want them to use it. So if you want to develop your team, the more content they consume and take action on Cloverleaf, the more they're going to develop themselves. So help them use it, bring them to the usage of it, and the more repetitive they get with it, the more value they'll get, the more action they will take, right? So again, we don't start our day with being present to who we are and who our team is. But if we can help people use Cloverleaf more often, we can help them bring that intentionality to their day. Again, if you have questions as I'm going through this, please pop them in the chat. Jason is there ready for you. But this is, again, a simple way to just position Cloverleaf as a leader. And there's ways to gain agreement on how you're going to use it. Now, if your team needs to increase trust, and these, team trust is really the foundation of performance, right? If you don't have trust, right, collaboration goes down, right? The friction goes up, right? Think about in the 1950s and 60s, right? You could go to an airport. The trust was so high, right? You could go to an airport, you could have your whole family take you to the gate, right? The trust was so high that you got very quickly to your gate. You could go to the airport half an hour before, right? But then obviously life happened, right? All these things happened. 9/11 happened, right? Trust went down, right? So speed went down, right? And now nobody can take you to the gate. Now you have to get there a lot earlier, right? So when you have high trust, right, the speed increases at which you can move and the performance goes up. So trust reduces friction, right? Trust takes misunderstanding and it shrinks it, right? And so when we have high team trust, right, we can go faster, farther together. And so Cloverleaf really creates this place for us to get language for ways to have conversations to maximize trust. So this is an exercise that I did actually do with a team that was struggling. So there had been some role switches and there was some animosity and there was some performance issues. Like the team just wasn't doing what they needed to be doing. And so I created this exercise to open up some vulnerability. And it was a super simple exercise. I did it I scheduled 45 to 60 minutes. Like I gave myself some cushion. So it's super simple for building trust. Before the meeting, I asked every team member to log onto Cloverleaf and click on their public profile. So I'm just going to show you what that means. They clicked on, because it's different than my assessments, it's click on their public profile. Okay. So when they went to their public profile, okay, so this is where I asked them to go. Okay. So I asked them to go there. And then I asked them to go to their leadership, motivation, and work style categories. And I asked them to choose one tip that highlighted a strength that they contribute to the team. So I said, kind of go through before the meeting, go through your, leadership, motivation. I said, go through your leadership, motivation, and work style. I said, just land on a tip, just go through them, land on a tip, bring a tip that really resonates with you as a tip that represents a strength that you really contribute to the team. Okay. The second task I gave them is preparation, is go to your development tips. So I asked them to go to the development area and I said, identify and pick a tip that speaks to an area of growth and think about an action you can take to improve in this area. That's all I asked them to do. Okay. And then during the meeting, I asked each person to share their strengths and their development area. So share their chosen strength, share the tip about the development area. And I said, everybody else just listen. Right. And I asked them if anybody else wants to write down an insight they have, or maybe something they were surprised to learn about somebody, right? Just jot it down. And it wasn't about giving like critiquing or giving critical feedback. It wasn't about like us solving a big problem, right? It was just about how can we learn about each other? How can we listen? And there's some people that were like moved to tears as they were like just sharing their development area. They're like, I know I'm not doing well at this and I'm dealing with that, right? There was a lot of vulnerability, and this was like a big deal with this team. And then we shared during the meeting, we focused listening to understand, and then we just sort of wrapped up with some reflections, right? We invited everybody else to say, what stood out to them. We asked people to say, hey, what did you learn newly about your team that you didn't know? What's a strength maybe you heard that you want to leverage? And then, we just ask them what strengths they can lean on, what growth areas can they support. And the outcome was really just around increasing trust, shared commitment to personal and team growth. And it really opens up an area. So to people that, poo-poo on team development, there is all kinds of research to show that when you enable people outside of their day-to-day work to build trust and build rapport, it has dramatic impacts on how people return to their day-to-day work, right? So this is so important, and this is so simple, and you don't have to do anything. You just tell people to go and use their Cloverleaf dashboard. That's all you have to do, right? And then you're just facilitating and listening, right? You're just letting people be human beings. You're facilitating and listening. You don't have to do anything, right? And so this is something that you can really capitalize on when the trust is low, or when morale is low, or when the team is struggling, whenever you think the team needs to be brought together, or even when the team is like under pressure and stress and you're like, you know what, we're gonna pause for a minute. So this is a great tool, a great exercise. It's super simple. It's all outlined in your resource. Again, if you have questions, please pop them in the chat. Jason is there, happy to help. And you can, Jason will be happy to share with you. So we get a lot of requests for helping people mitigate conflict. So whether you're a leader or not, this is a wonderful way to mitigate conflict using Cloverleaf. And sometimes when we're mitigating conflict, we get trapped in the story. We get trapped in the details and the drama. And so we really want to leverage Cloverleaf to rise above drama and details. This is the trap of conflict. The first thing you want to do is you want to explore key differences. So when you're on the Zoom bar, okay. So when you're in the team dashboard, I'm just going to go back to the team dashboard. So when you're in the team dashboard, if you look at like 16 types brings up different comparisons. So if you look up 16 types, right? What are each other's likely causes of conflict, right? How are they different, right? How are they alike, or how are they different, right? So you're going to see that, right? So for example, these two individuals' causes of conflict, they're the same, right? But if I change the person, this person's the same too. Okay, so these two people, their causes of conflict are different, right? So I'm going to bring up a different assessment. Maybe I'm going to bring up, DISC. Okay. If I look at DISC, you might want to say, how similar or diverse are the DISC types, right? Oh, these two people are very diverse. They're very different. How does it show up and how they work together, right? So I might want to read this and understand how diverse are the disc types, right? So we're exploring key differences. Oh, by the way, before this, as a leader, you want to have met with each person one-on-one. What you're doing is basically you're bringing both people together, but you're talking with them one-on-one first, right? But you are bringing them together for like a learning session to learn about how to work together better. I just want to add that caveat that is in the resource. Okay. So what are we learning here by how these two people are diverse or different, right? Now, maybe I want to explore key differences in Enneagram, right? So I'm going to bring up Enneagram. Okay. Now, the Enneagram thinking style comparison actually says how these two people can resolve conflict. It says the sources of conflict. It says their reaction to conflict. So it's very specific in terms of conflict content, right? Which is going to tell you a little bit how to do that. So you want to be asking, what are those key differences, right? What do you understand about how the other person by seeing these differences? So you're kind of almost doing some coaching here by using this information, but you're not focusing on what happened. Do you see how it's different on tell me your side of the story? Tell me your side of the story. That's like almost like a useless exercise, right? You want to be focusing on how did we get here? How we communicate and think differently? How did it cause that conflict? How are we different? Right? So then after kind of looking at some of those differences, you want to discuss the insights. How might our preferences be influencing how we approach this situation, right? Don't get into the details of the situation. How do our approaches differ? Where do you see opportunities for our styles to complement each other? You want to focus on where we're actually aligned. Where can we come together? And then you want to create an action plan. How can we agree on a step? How are we going to move forward? And then set some kind of check-in to see if any kind of change helps to reduce tension. The idea is you want people to learn about each other, right? It's not about, well, let me be heard about my side, right? It's much more valuable to, well, let me learn about this person so I can better work with them. That's a much more valuable exercise, right? So then you want to just wrap up. Hey, what's one new thing you learned about your teammate's approach that's different than yours? What's an adjustment you're going to make in your next interaction, right? Do you see how this is much more solution focused, right? So you can stop playing mediator, right? And you can really start helping people learn about, hey, it's okay that we're different. It's okay that we have different approaches. How can we leverage those differences rather than have those differences tear us apart, or rather than have those differences make it unpleasant to work together, right? And this is really the heart of conflict resolution. A lot of times we focus on like trying to get me to see your perspective. Is that valuable? Yes, right? But is it more valuable for me to just understand how you're different and how I can work with you better rather than me adopting your perspective? I don't have to adopt your perspective. I could just understand, well, how do you see it? You see it that way, but how can I work with you, right? And so it's just a little shift in conflict mediation, and Cloverleaf has laid it all out for you in this feature so that you can help people for the long term work together. I don't just want you to figure out this one situation. I want you to help these two people to work together for the long term by better understanding each other, their preferences, their work style, so that that conflict maybe isn't just going to happen over and over and over again. Again, if you have questions, please pop them in the chat. I see you're all still here hanging on the words. So pop them in the chat if you have questions. We are here to answer them. Okay, our last exercise is creating dynamic project teams. So you want to balance strengths and work styles. Now, again, this is not for hiring. Just be clear, this is not for hiring. Great, Brent. Brent, you can have all of my descriptions and all of my buzz phrases. You can take them anytime. All right. So again, if you have a question, just pop it in the chat. That's the best way to get your questions answered if you have a question. So balancing strengths and work styles, again, this is not for hiring, but this is sort of building like sub teams for projects. And you kind of want to make sure, do I have a good mix of strengths? I'm going to kind of show you where to look. We obviously have a lot of assessments on Cloverleaf, so I did focus on just a few. But the first thing you want to do is define your project needs. So you want to list the key skills and strengths and roles that your specific project needs. So you have to ask yourself, do I need strategic thinkers? Do I need detail people? Do I need analysts? Do I need creative people? Who do I need? Also, think about the actual project. Is there like a urgency around it? Is it fast paced? Do I need someone to make really quick decisions? Or is it more like research based? Do I need more analyzers? Like, do I need more like deep thinkers rather than fast paced, quick decision makers? So you have to do that work yourself. Then you want to use the dashboard builder to create these sort of dynamic combinations. So we went into dashboard builder before, so I'm going to go through and go back into it. Let's just go back into it. I'm going to add a few more people. So I'm already in dashboard builder, so I'm just going to go add a few more people. So let's add, who should we add to this, Jason? I'm going to add you to it. We have a lot of like heavy hitters in here. Sorry, I have like a lot of Zoom boxes. So I'm going to add Jason. Okay. Let's see, Jason in here. I'm going to add Allison, and I'm going to add Heidi. Okay. I'm going to add Heidi too. Okay. So now I've added a bunch of people into here. Okay. All right. So now I might want to, so I'm going to now use the dashboard builder to create some dynamic combinations, right? So I might look at some assessments to see if I have some complementary preferences. So let me just look here. Okay, so I have a lot of extroverts here, so they might be kind of talking all over each other. And I've got Kirsten in the middle here, who's an introvert. So I just want to be wary of this, right? So I've got a lot of extroversion here, and I have to just be careful about that, right? So I want to make sure that I have some folks that are going to process a little slower, right? And make sure that that there is going to be some listening here. I've got a lot of people who require structure, so I have some more judgers here. And again, you can understand a little bit more about all of these functions just by clicking on it. You don't have to be an expert in here, right? So I want to know that. Now, if I go to DISC, I want to balance high dominance with decision-making, for example, with steadiness for supportive collaboration. So what do I have here? So I've got some dominance, but I do have some steadiness. So that's good. So I have some dominance. So I need decision-making, but I need support with collaboration. And I've got that, right? I've got some high S energy and I've got some D energy. So I've got some of that support to make sure we have got that follow through, make sure we've got, things that we need for people to get information to distribute, but I also have enough decision-making power here. And then Enneagram, I want to make sure I have a blend of some creativity, leadership, some decision-making balance. Let's see what I have here. So we do have I don't have any heart triad representation, right? So let's look at some of the strengths that the heart triad brings. So the heart triad really has their focus on bringing empathy and compassion to situations. But let's say this project is an analytical project. It's not necessarily a project that's going to impact people or decisions that require compassion and empathy. So I'm okay that I don't have someone from, like, maybe this is a more analytical project. I've got some gut triad people that are going to keep it moving. But this is more of a research analysis project, and I've got my head triad people here, so I'm okay with that, right? So again, I've done my thinking about what the project needs, and so I think I have the people that I need here, right? So again, this is just something you can play with, right? I can add more people, take people off, and then maybe you're just sort of, you're playing around with different folks, again, depending on the project needs. And then after that, you're reviewing and refining the team. Maybe you add some people, and then you communicate sort of the team formation, and maybe you share maybe some of your thinking on it. Here's what I need from certain people. Here's what I want you to be aware of. I notice you're a lot of extroverts, so please make sure that you ask for input, pitch out, don't just talk over each other. Like, hey, you can also just give some little warning points, right? To make sure that everybody gives space for each other to share.